What I've learned being in the advice business so long is that not everyone can take good advice. In fact, sometimes it's very difficult to recognize when you're getting good advice. There's so many people out there giving advice and so many people have opinions that it's difficult sometimes to distinguish between someone's leanings and point of view that is not necessarily informed by experience, and then someone who has true wisdom to impart that can really help you. But I've found that there are a couple of things that you should keep in mind when it comes to getting advice. And the question is, are you really ready for great advice? You see, what happens is sometimes someone will hire someone like me as a coach or a consultant, and what they're really looking for is something that is incredible, that will dramatically change their business in the next weeks or the next months or even in the next year. And more often than not, what they will get is a very simple idea. A very simple idea that sounds simple. It really does sound simple, but executing it is far more difficult. Now, I've had this experience quite a bit as an entrepreneur and as someone who gives advice. So it's something that I understand completely. Sometimes you will hear an idea and it will clearly be profound. It'll be something that, wow, this really makes a lot of sense and this will really make a difference. And then sometimes you'll hear something that will sound rather simple, but it is in the execution that the difference will be made. And that is when you are getting true wisdom, because someone has synthesized this, has boiled it down, has made it very, very simple to understand. And there's a lot to that. There might be some complexity under that, but there's a lot going on underneath. I'll give you a couple of examples that I've had. I've gotten advice many times in my career that I haven't paid attention to. And in getting this advice from someone who was very, very wise, who really understood what I was doing, it just sounded very simple. The first bit of advice that we got when I was running my sports company some years ago, I think my partner got this advice. And in fact, it's something I include when I now coach people in their business growth. Someone said to him that the hardest thing about a business is getting it going 5 miles an hour. And when we listened to this and we thought about it, we said, what does that mean? Well, it means if you can get the business going at a pace that's slow but going in the right direction and you're building momentum, you're doing the right thing. But initially, that might not be so easy to do. It might be difficult to get the products out regularly, to get people buying them regularly, to get paid regularly, to pay your employees regularly, to market the business and all those sorts of things. So getting a business going 5 miles an hour is a fundamental aspect of making that business succeed. Yet, listen how simple that sounds. That sounds pretty simple, but might be very difficult. There are many people in business who have been in business for years and they don't have the consistency that we're talking about. They have ups and downs, they have detours, and that's because figuring out the right model and figuring out the right system to go 5 miles an hour is not easy. Another bit of advice that we got in the same business, in the sports business, from someone who was very experienced in sports, when we were talking about or developing new technology for the sports leagues, is someone very experienced said to us, focus on one sport at a time. Focus on one sport at a time. And that was advice that we ignored. And we ignored it to our peril because we wound up having all of these sports with different issues and different politics and different policies and different requirements and different levels of advancement that we had to address that became very complicated to do. And let's see, what was the other thing that I've heard? When I was starting my whole consulting activity and consulting practice, I I was initially focused very much on the idea of helping businesses deliver better service. It was something I had done before. I had had some success in it. So I said, let me start there in the service category. And I remember having breakfast with a fellow consultant. He had been in consulting for a long time and had been working with growing businesses. And he said, listen, I like your ideas. I like the whole idea of aiming for higher level businesses, even in the luxury category. But he said, focus on the sales component of this. Focus on the sales groups. And in some of my early publishing, in fact, I remember a publisher coming to me saying, you know, what you need is publish a sales title because this is what people will want from you. So my point to you is this: you may not be ready for expert advice and true wisdom because you might not recognize it when you hear it because it sounds so simple. And you might instead really want to do what you want to do or what you think should be done. But if you're getting advice from people who are just looking at this from a pedestrian standpoint, what you should be doing in your business, you are probably getting bad advice. What you need is someone who has a read in the market. Now, that person has to either be someone who's experienced in doing what you do and has had some success doing it, or someone who is maybe even a customer of what you do and understands it from that point of view. But whatever the case, you may not be ready for expert advice. And what I'm suggesting to you is to probe yourself and to think about that and decide, are you willing to listen to advice that might be more informed and have more wisdom than you currently have? It can make a big difference, and it can save you a lot of time and a lot of headaches going forward. If you like this tip, give me a thumbs up. Let me know that you liked it. Make sure you share it with someone in your network because I'm sure there's someone you know that needs some good advice and some true wisdom for their business. Make sure you subscribe to my channel because I have a lot more coming, and I will see you next time.